All right. So, Bert, I like these burning questions, and I want to remind our listeners you can submit your burning question to us, and we'll do our best to try and get it up on air. But we have some that have been submitted I want to talk about. And the first one is called Under the Influence. Can we speak to them about our suspicion? And this one's not too unusual of a question, but it is a popular question for sure. So here's the question. We have a reasonable suspicion that an employee is coming into work intoxicated. We do have a, DFWP. You know what that stands for, Bert?
What does that stand for, Phil?
I don't know. I was hoping you knew. Uh,
Let's see. We have
it's gonna be a drug something DFWP. Somebody can help me
Drug-free
out
drug-free
online.
workplace.
drug-free workplace.
Drug-free
Drug-free workplace
workplace.
policy.
There you go. Thanks, Nick. When you're reading these and trying to think through responses at the same time, you're going to draw blanks here. So, drug-free workplace policy. And we can send the employee for drug screening, but are we unable to speak with the employee regarding the suspicion that they might have an alcohol problem? Any advice? So I think in this one, there's a few points of interest to consider. I think the answer is yes, you can. You can talk to them about these things. There's nothing wrong with that. And we get into, in my world of employee relations and looking after the well-being of the employee and protecting the employer as well. There's a careful line, and I want to be careful not to go down the road of ADA, but I also want to look after the best care for my employee as well. So I'd like to get some perspective from you, Bert, on that.
Yeah. So this is an interesting question. I'm going to focus on one word that was used in the question itself. So the question starts out: we have reasonable suspicion that an employee is coming into work intoxicated. That in and of itself gives you reason to go to the employee, and frankly, you have a duty to go to the employee and confront them if they are intoxicated at work. They present a health and safety risk to themselves, to their coworkers, and possibly to the public at large if they happen to be driving during the workday for you, or if they are working on a product that, if they assemble it incorrectly, could create an injury for a consumer down the road. So just based on that alone, you as the employer have an obligation to talk to the employee about this. But the question goes on, and it uses the word here. It says, should we, or are we unable to speak with the employee regarding suspicion that they might have an alcohol problem?
That's
So,
where I was worried about
yeah.
ADA.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think taking it to the level that they might have a problem is probably beyond the scope of the initial conversation. If the employee, in response to you confronting them, says that they have a problem, then you're definitely in the ADA realm. Now, even all of that being said, uh, you know, the ADA does not protect for current use when the employee does not necessarily come to you voluntarily to say that they have an alcohol problem. Instead, if they're showing up at work intoxicated, what you would want to do is confront the employee, send the employee for an alcohol test. If it's confirmed that current use of alcohol is not protected. Only if the employee would come to you again and say, I have a problem, I need some help, I want to take advantage of the company's EAP program if we have one, then it's protected under the ADA. So very fine distinction here. I think, again, the employer has an absolute obligation to deal with this. I would not initially go to the employee and confront them about whether or not they have an alcohol problem. I would focus on the current suspicion of intoxication.
Yeah. And I would remind people that, I mean, this is why you do indicia training. And I know you and I have helped facilitate that. And there's programs available through AIM for that. But we want to make sure that we know how to identify impairment
Yep.
of all types beyond alcohol. And when we're approaching these types of scenarios, in the way I would have practiced these when I was in HR, I would be looking for my signs of impairment. I would be doing that probably with a witness or someone who is also observing the same or different signals that I might be receiving. And I would then have and fulfill my duty to address the issue should I think that they are impaired at any level. But I may offer them, at that point, I'm going to determine, are they impaired? And if I think it's alcohol, and we can determine that through testing, we're going to test. And I may, at any point, offer the assistance of our medical programs, including EAP, without necessarily asking them the question of, do you have a problem? Is this been, an ongoing issue? I don't know. I don't want to get into that conversation. I think that's what you're saying, but we can still offer the assistance of our program and try to help the individual improve their scenario should they have a problem.
Yeah, I think what I'm suggesting, Phil, is that we don't want to enter into the situation where we are, quote unquote, perceiving the individual as having an alcohol problem. We want to focus on the current impairment or the current intoxication or suspicion of intoxication. If the conversation leads into that they have an alcohol problem, yes, we need to go down that road. But again, even the ADA does not protect somebody who's in the workplace currently under the influence if they have not come to you voluntarily to seek help for having an alcohol problem.
Thanks for being an on-demand viewer of This Week at Work. Don't forget you can be part of the show by watching live at 7:30 a.m. Central every Thursday morning, when you can get your burning questions answered by using the question mark icon to the right of the player. In fact, you can ask a question now. Head over to aimea.org. Under Member Resources, you'll find This Week at Work. Click Listen Live to register for our next episode and submit a question. Or follow or subscribe wherever you get your news and entertainment. We'll see you next week when we discuss what's happening this week at work.